Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hot Mess Podcast. I'm your host, John Fay, with hosts Allison Silbowski and Jordan Ezel. We're a podcast by students for students. We're all communications and journalism students at Temple University. And every week or so, we try to cover a bunch of different topics of things that are going on in the news, things that we think are relevant to students and to just our listeners in general. And this past 2 weeks, we've had some bad things happen. So we wanted to talk a little bit about that. The first thing we want to talk about is what's been going on in Miami with spring break, which, every year we always hear stories of, like this happening, that happening. We hear, we see the videos of, all the partying going on, but then we hear a couple stories of, violence happening, deaths. And just this past week, the news came out that a girl from near our area in Bucks County had passed away from things happening in Miami. And we talked about this before the show, but what is your guys' opinion on what's going on with that?
It's
just awful.
It's like it takes all the words out. Like, I don't even know what words to describe what's going on, because like everyone knows that like spring break, well, there's a few things. Like spring break can be dangerous, like in places like Miami to begin with. And then you bring onto it everything with like COVID going on. And it's just the fact of people still going and seeing and doing all these things, even though like COVID is still a thing and you shouldn't be going there anyway. And then now hearing news about this and just kind of seeing it happen and, hearing about it, it's like one on top of the other. And it's just terrible. I think it's the only word that I can find to describe it.
It's also sorry, go ahead, John.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, for context, I think I should say what happened. A girl from Bucks County, who I actually went to high school with, has been in the news. Her name was Christine Engelhardt. She was, and I'm going to redirect people. There are multiple articles online. There's one on the Bucks County Career Times that I think a lot of people can get a lot of information out of. A girl, Christine Engelhardt from Bucks County, went to Miami, and she ended up meeting two people there and ended up getting drugged and raped, and now she is dead. So it's odd because it hits close to home. I think that there's a lot of disconnect when we read stories like this that, unfortunately they happen too often, but then you hear about it from somebody that, and I knew her a long time ago, but, it's still odd seeing that. So yeah, it's a very sad story. But yeah, you can definitely find there's articles on USA Today, Bucks County Career Times, if you want to read more about that.
Just to me, genuinely hearing about this is so disheartening. And I remember before we hopped on the show, John, you were saying that she was traveling by herself. And I feel like as a woman, traveling by yourself is one of the scariest things. And it's because of events like this that happen. She was alone. She didn't have anybody to look out for her. I can't even imagine how terrified she was in that moment of realizing what was going on and having no control. And I've personally never been a victim of being drugged, but I have had friends who have, and from their experiences and what they've told me, I just cannot wrap my mind around how another human being can do something like this or stand by to something like this to another human being. It's disgusting. It's so upsetting. And it just really, it's so sad that our message to women has to be, don't travel alone. You always have to make sure that you're, pretty much on edge the whole time. It's sad. It's just sad.
it's not right that women are told don't travel alone, always travel with people. Like there's like I know it's kind of an ongoing joke that women always go to the bathroom together, but there's a reason why women go to the bathroom together, you know?
There's a reason we bring our drinks with us.
There's a reason that you see every girl or every woman, we have pepper spray or we have an alarm or something on our keychain. It's not just because, oh, we're paranoid, or it's because, whatever, but there is a reason for all this. And it's events like this, it is things like this, violence, that is the reason that we have to do all these things. But it's not right that we can't go out alone, travel somewhere alone without risking our own safety.
Yeah, it's very sad that that's just the state of the society that we live in right now. I started noticing just in the last couple of years because, I'd always heard about women carrying pepper spray and, like those tiny, I know some people have those like tiny little weapons that you can kind of fend off people with, but I started seeing them a lot more. And then like when it was people I knew, I saw carrying those around, it's like, it's so commonplace now. And it's just like that's really sad that's the norm now, that women are afraid like that. And it's, that the responsibility of that falls on men and how the way that they're acting towards women. And it's just, I mean, I've heard anecdotes from you guys, from people that I know, and it's just, it's awful. It's very upsetting that that's common.
Yeah, I mean, I don't go outside without having my pepper spray in my hand at all times. It's bright pink. You know what it is. I'm not playing games. If someone tries to come at me, but I, kind of laughed about it when my dad first bought me one, but he got me a taser, and now I carry it around. I mean, like if you're gonna, I am almost done through grad school. It's too late in for me to get kidnapped. I got shit going on. Stuff going on.
Yeah, again, it's just, it's one of those stories that really just makes you be like, okay, there are predatory men out there. Like this was, I don't want to go into the details just because this was somebody that I kind of knew, so it's hitting a little close to home, but you can definitely find more information about it online. But just what happened to her is horrific. And, I can't imagine, like that happening to a loved one. So it's very upsetting, but I think now, I will say that thankfully the two people who perpetrated this were arrested pretty much almost immediately and are facing huge sentences for this. So I think justice is being served, but sometimes they don't get caught, and that's even worse. Those people are out on the streets and they're just doing it again.
Or things that happen to women, these stories of them being raped or sexually assaulted aren't believed.
Yeah.
And I think that's what is the most sickening in my mind, is how can you tell somebody that didn't happen to them? How can you sit there and say, oh, well, what were you wearing? What what were you saying to him? You made him think that it was going to happen, so naturally that's what, of course, he thought. No, consent is consent. If you are too drunk, you are too drunk to consent. Like, and
consent can always be taken away.
exactly.
It doesn't matter if she said yes 5 minutes ago, if she's saying no, or if he's saying no. If anyone is saying no, you need to stop.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying to me is how many times do we need to hear about stories like this happening until something's actually done about it?
This happens way too often. And it's the fact that we as a society are all so numb to it at this point that it's almost seen as, oh, that's just what happens. No, that's not just what happens. It's something
not anymore.
Yeah, it's just awful. Hopefully this story will serve as a reminder to be more safe, be safer to the people that you talk to. And just I always say, just this applies mostly to women in this case, but applies to everybody. Just keep your wits about you. Be aware of the people that you're surrounded by. Be aware of the people that you're interacting with for whatever that reason that might be, because this could have
be so easily to trust.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. it's a very upsetting story, but I think that hopefully it'll be a reminder to be much more safe, and yeah, just keep your wits about you and keep yourself safe, and take the proper precautions. Take a friend with you, keep your pepper spray on you, do whatever it is you need to do, because there are awful people out there who will try to take advantage of you.
But not only that, like, yes, you need to take the proper precautions when, traveling anywhere or doing anything. But I think this needs to be a call to action to our government to change something, or to society to change something. Like, this shouldn't only be this shouldn't only be an issue that women have to take precautions for. This should be something that needs to be fixed. And this is an issue that's been going on for way too long that needs to stop.
I think the first place we need to start is social media and the context that we put out there. I don't know if you guys have seen the whole David Dobrik. I might not be.
Yes.
I might be
Yes.
pronouncing.
Yes.
But he's a YouTuber who it's come out that one of his friends, I might not be telling this correctly, I'm not really fully in depth in the situation, but one of his friends was involved in multiple sexual assault cases. And it's to me, it just kind of seems like it's being pushed. People are talking about it, which is great, which is awesome. It needs to be talked about. It needs to be shared. Like, her story needs to be believed, but it doesn't really look like they're doing much about it. And I've seen videos of them making fun of, sexual assault victims and sexual assault people that are sexual assaulters. And it's not funny. I can't even imagine being somebody that's been in that situation, watching those videos and how lightly it seems like they're taking that as a joke. That's not a joke.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine being those girls in that situation. She was so drunk that her friend was having to hold her up.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it starts right there. The messages and things that we put out about who we hang out with and who we associate with and the activities that we do says a lot about ourselves. And it says even more when we're putting that out to be shared with the entire world. Watch what you do. Think about it. Just take a second to think about how that could make somebody else feel. And just these actions need to have consequences. It's not okay for just a slap on the wrist. It's not a slap on the wrist. Those people that have been sexually assaulted, that carries with them for the rest of their lives. That carries into their relationships, that carries into trust, that carries into everything. They can't just let that go the way that some of these sexual assaulters have been able to just let it go.
Yeah,
with the whole David Dobrik, that whole issue, he came out saying that he's no longer speaking and associating himself with that friend, that he was the one,
whatever.
But it doesn't matter, because that should have never been on the internet. That should have never been filmed in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. Apparently, the girl gave her consent for this video to be posted or something along those lines, but she was drunk. And if you're drunk, consent goes out the window. You cannot give your consent then. So he should have never posted that, no matter what. And I know, like, so many brands that endorse David right now are no longer associating themselves with him, and he's getting at least some he's like, some things are happening to him, but it shouldn't have happened in the first place. And he can't just be like, I'm sorry, because I'm sorry is not good enough at that point.
Yeah, sexual assault is not a punchline.
No. It's
yeah,
not
absolutely.
a trending video. No.
The full context of what happened with this specific incident was this friend of his. I don't know the person's name. He had been doing videos with him for quite a while. I think they were childhood friends, and they did a video where they invited girls over and they were partying, and there were these two girls that went into a room with the friends.
Also minors.
Yes, and one of them was extremely intoxicated and could not give consent. And the really bad thing that ropes David Dobrik into this, is that he recorded, like, they were like going up to the door and being like, oh, what's going on in there, and like laughing about, you know, like they thought the friend was having sex, but it turned out something awful was going on in there. And yeah, it's just one of those things that like you hear about. And I don't follow any of these YouTubers. I don't know, I've just never been interested in stuff like that. But it's like you hear about this stuff and you're like, that's awful, because I know that he's like the top YouTuber or something, right? Like he's one of the top ones.
Yeah, he's like a billionaire. He has like a millions of subscribers and everything. He's one of the top YouTubers.
I watched the bits and pieces of that video that people were talking about, and it's like, I'm sure millions of people watched that, and it's like,
how did no one have an issue with it? How did no one say it? Like, what? Isn't that a really old video too?
Apparently, yeah.
It was.
This happened like a few years ago.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know. And this isn't the first time something like this with a YouTuber has happened.
No.
I mean, didn't I might be wrong, but didn't Shane Dawson, something came out like a few years ago with him?
Possibly.
I believe he's the one that made comments about pedophilia or something like that.
Yes, and he like Willow Smith. He was like over sexualizing her as a minor.
It was a couple more things. It was like he made some like really weird videos trying to basically like pedophilia apologetics, which is just, no, don't do that. Don't do that.
So it's like, it also, first of all, that just brings the topic like, this is not okay. And then also just know what you're putting on the internet. Things like this should not, first of all, it's not okay. And it should not be happening at all, but it should not be on the internet for millions and billions of people to be seeing or hearing.
I mean, I just don't understand how someone could be that tone deaf. And maybe if they are, hire somebody to watch your videos before you submit them, before you post them online, to make sure that your content is not going to offend anyone. And it's not, I mean, I feel like this is all just the surface with the sexual assault stuff with YouTubers, because I've seen a lot of racial slurs and racism, just flat out racist comments that they've made on their videos, doing blackface and things like that. I was like, how did you think this was okay?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care if it was a few years ago. Racism has been going on a lot longer than just a few years. I don't want to hear that, oh, it was 2018, no one knew better. That's BS.
Because you knew better.
Take accountability.
And I think that's the main thing. Like, you need to be accountable for your actions, and just saying sorry, that's not being accountable for it.
How do you plan on changing?
Exactly.
What steps are you taking to educate yourself on what you did wrong? What are you learning from it? How do you plan to use your platform to educate other people as well? I mean, these are the questions that I want to see answered when these type of issues come up, with whether it's a celebrity, YouTuber, whatever.
I think a lot of these YouTubers are just kind of, there's something off about them. Like, I don't know, like the majority of the ones that I've heard about, they seem to just be very attention grabby and very, you know, like stories like this are not totally uncommon. I mean, this thing with David, and you mentioned Shane Dawson, like those are pretty horrendous, but I've heard so many things about these people, and it's just like, I don't know, maybe there's just something wrong with that industry. Very similar to like Hollywood, you know, with the Me Too stuff that's been coming out, where we find out, you know, major producers, actors, directors, just like, you know, decades of abuse in one way or another. And it's just like, is there's just something wrong with this entertainment industry?
I think it's something like, I like to think the best in people. So I'd like to think that they knew better before becoming famous, but there's just something about the industry and about the fame that I think gets to so many people, and they kind of forget everything they're taught, everything that they know is right, is wrong. It's thrown out the window, and they're like, what can get the most views?
Right.
And no matter if that's right or wrong,
they don't think that they can do any wrong.
Exactly. They think they're invincible at that point, just because you're famous, you're a celebrity, you have this huge fan base. But that, you still have to be accountable, and you still have to realize no, that is wrong. I don't care if it'll get you the most views. And I think that's what's wrong with this industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just happy to see, sorry, John, I was just gonna say, I'm just happy to see that people are starting to finally talk about stuff like this. And it's not as easily, just forgotten about or just swept under the rug. Like, I feel like a lot of it is being brought to light and people are holding people accountable. And that's good to see. That's a good step that we're in the direction of where I feel like we're moving in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think going off of this topic, you also bring that this doesn't only just happen, things like this in like entertainment industries or, with celebrities and famous people. I mean, Jordan and I, we were talking earlier about like catcalling. That's something that every women and even some men have experienced. And it is the most, as someone who's personally experienced that, it is the most sickening and frustrating and annoying like thing ever, that it's like, don't, like, stop bothering me. Like, why do you have to catcall people?
It's so disrespectful. And I don't need you to tell me that I'm looking good. I already know that. I don't need that to hear that from some random stranger. And my favorite ones are when if you don't answer them, they start, calling you the B word and start saying that, oh, you're a stuck up this or you're a stuck up that. Like, no, you are in the wrong here. I'm just walking down the street, minding my own business. And I'm my bad for not answering you and thanking you up and down for complimenting me in the most disrespectful way. I don't need to hear your comments, and I don't need to feel, I hate going out of my house every day thinking I'm going to be disrespected today. I'm going to be sexualized today just for walking down the street. I don't need to hear your whistles and all your comments as you're driving by honking at me. Just every single time it happens, it just makes me more and more irritated. And the worst part is I don't feel comfortable sticking up for myself or talking back. I just ignore it.
Because if you stick up for yourself, then who knows what's going to happen?
Exactly.
Are they going to attack you? Are they going to gang up on you? What's going to happen?
Right. Is this a time where I'm going to get kidnapped? Am I going to be in a situation that I don't want to catch myself into just for standing up for myself or saying something back? Like, it's, but people are saying, oh, well, women should be nicer to guys who hit on them.
No, we don't have to be nicer to them, because it's not, when we're walking down the block at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, you have no right to be catcalling us. You have no right to be saying all these things about our body. That is not about us. That is about our physical appearance. And it is disrespectful. It is rude. And it has to stop. And we do not need to be nicer about that. Absolutely. Because it should not be happening.
You don't know those men anything.
No.
I think it's a disconnect of, I think a lot of the men that do this, they don't have normal interactions with women. So they're just like, oh, this is how men act. And I think that it kind of, that there's a very negative cultural aspect to it where, they're just thinking that this is like a normal way, and like, oh, obviously the women will respond, and obviously they're not, they're, this word and that word if they don't respond to me. I think that's ingrained in a lot of, these people's brains, and it's just that's so disgusting, and it's not an excuse for it at all. It's something that I think needs to be tackled by the culture. I think that this is a major cultural issue, and it needs to be stopped because it's just been going on for so long, and it's so commonplace at this point.
And it sickens me even more to see when you're walking down the street and you see the children do it. Like, I know I've been catcalled by middle schoolers. These kids who are 11, 10, 12 years old. Like, that means that, like you said, John, how maybe that's what they're taught, they're ingrained, it's going into the next generation.
Yeah.
And this issue is just going to keep on resurfacing as the generations continue, because you're teaching the children at age 10 that this is how you treat a woman.
Mhm.
This is how, if you like someone or you think someone looks good, this is how you do it. You disrespect them.
Just personally curious of what their success rates are. Out of all the women that you catcall, how many of them do you end up with, or do you get their number? I'm
I'm gonna
You
guess
know,
none.
that'd be a great research to do.
Right. I'm just really curious
Yeah.
of what that success rate is, because I'm telling you, I don't think it's very high, if at all.
And I feel like now that the summer and the warmer weather is coming, it's going to, I don't know about you, Jordan, you've realized this, but like when it gets colder, like it happens less often. You're wearing more clothing.
It still
You're covered
happens,
up.
but it's not
It
as
still
frequent.
happens.
Yeah.
But now that the warmer weather is coming, like I'm going to be wearing shorts. I'm going to be wearing dresses. Like my shoulders are going to be showing.
Mhm.
So that means I'm going to get catcalled more.
Right.
And it's so uncomfortable. The fact sometimes like I'll have to change the route that I go home so I don't pass certain groups of people that I know will be there.
Yeah, like that internal fear of walking past a group of men has been instilled in me since I was little, and every single time I will cross the street, I will literally do anything to avoid that large group of men, because I know whether you physically are saying something to me or not, like you're thinking something in your head the second that I walk by, and that just makes me so uncomfortable. And then when it's verbalized, it makes me even more uncomfortable, especially if I'm alone. But have you noticed, Allison, that anytime that you're walking with like a guy or a guy friend,
It never happens.
nothing gets said?
Nope, no. And
So weird.
if it's a group of girls, it'll happen.
Mhm.
If you're just alone, it'll happen. The second you introduce someone of the male gender, sorry, not the right word, but anytime there's a male there, you never hear anything.
Right. So if you're comfortable saying it to a woman alone, why don't you speak up when there's a male around?
Yeah.
I love how you can be respectful enough to men, because who knows if that's their girlfriend or whatever. But the second I'm by myself, it's fair game. This is why women are scared to travel alone. This is why women are scared to be alone, go to the bathroom alone, do anything
Why
alone.
women have pepper spray and personalized weapons on them.
And
Things like this.
And it stems back to, oh, well, women just can't be by themselves, or women just can't hit. No, we're very capable of being by ourselves and doing everything that a man could do. We just don't feel comfortable doing it because we're sexualized. We get made comments to, like it's just such a double negative, double standard. But they're not teaching the men to act, start just acting better and treating women with respect. It's up to women to just ignore it. Just walk by, just put your head down.
Have to ignore it.
Just don't say anything. Well, why don't you just put a sweater on? I shouldn't have to wear a sweater when it's 90 degrees out, because I shouldn't have to be worried about walking down the street and a comment being made to me.
Yeah, it's definitely a major issue with, I think it's a cultural issue where, men just think that it's okay to do stuff like that. And then, like we've talked about, it just goes down in the generations. Just like, yeah, keep talking to women like this. Yeah, keep talking to women like this, generation after generation. And I think it's also just a lack of, morals. Like, I think there used to be a certain way of how, men and women interacted with each other, which obviously was very flawed, but I think that there was some good to it, where there was some respect in there. There was respect, there was decorum, there was not this stupid catcalling, which guys, I'm a guy, don't do it. It doesn't work. You're not getting any women that way. It's not going to work out. Okay.
Right.
It's a silly thing to do, and it just makes you look like an idiot.
Just wonder what it's like in other countries, if this is like a big deal in other countries as it is in the US.
I think it is. Like, I hate to say it, but I think it's just because no. Because okay, I went to Israel about a year and a few months ago, and it happened to me there. Like, it happens everywhere you go. Like, maybe it's done in a different way, or it's not as bad in one place as the other. But I think this is just such a world issue and such like a humanity issue that like women's rights and women's safety and just being respected is such an issue that's happening everywhere.
I don't think we're asking too much, just asking you to leave us alone on our walks. I think we're asking too much.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, I mean, it's very sad that this is, still going on today, especially with everything going on with Me Too, with, I mean, the women's rights movement has been going on forever, but, it's still happening, still very common. I mean, I get so many stories from women that I know that I'm just like, is this just happening on like every street corner? It feels like it.
It
It
is.
feels like it from all the stories I hear.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I can't tell you I went to get my first vaccine the other day. I got catcalled 3 times on the span of maybe a half an hour trip, 3 times.
That's one every 10 minutes.
It was 10 o'clock in the morning, like 9:30 in the morning.
What day of the week was this?
On Monday.
On a Monday. It's awful that it happens anytime, but it's just like, what are you guys doing? It's a Monday morning.
Right.
Like, I think it's also, I'll go on a limb. It's loser mentality. It's, I think that respectable men don't act that way. I think that, the weak men who don't have good social skills with women, especially a lot of the time it happens in large groups. So they're just like, oh, I got my boys backing me up here. Like,
Right.
Okay, I'll do this and they'll do it with me. But, I think it's a very weak man attitude to have, to think that that's going to work.
Listen,
And unfortunately, it's so commonplace that it's like that mentality is just everywhere now.
Yeah, it's
It's very frustrating.
And it's terrifying. Like, it's scary. The other day I was walking into the subway, just one of the subway stations in Philly. This was like 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday. And I'm walking down the stairs and these 2 guys are walking up the stairs, and one guy put his hand out and like tried to touch me. I was like, that scared me, that like shook me to my core. I ran past them down to the subway, and then I'm sitting there waiting for the train with my keys and my my little keychain thing in my hand, because you're just so scared of that. Like, don't try to touch people, don't call people, don't do anything.
Right. The thing is, like, I'm a very strong person, but I'm very small and could easily be overpowered, and that's what terrifies me the most.
Exactly.
Like, I will put up a fight. Trust me, you will see it. I will go from red, like I'll start seeing red real quick, but it's that power still might not be enough to really overpower someone, especially if they're like 2 guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
like just 2 6-foot guys versus like a 5-foot girl.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you do, like you're not gonna win, and that's the scary part.
Scary. Yeah.
Yeah, I really let you 2 talk about this because I'm a man. I don't experience this, so I can only talk about it from the stories I've heard. But you guys have experienced it. I haven't. So I guess the only thing I can do for the people listening who are men, if you see this, intervene. Intervene. I'm not afraid to say it. Intervene. I think a lot of people see this and they're just like, no, it's not involving me. It's like, well, you know what? You could be saving somebody's life. So intervene. I think we need a lot more people intervening these days, because there's just a lot of guys, they're just doing this like, okay, nobody's going to do anything.
What if that was your sister, your girlfriend, your mother, your cousin, like your best girlfriend, like anyone that you can think of that's female that you care about? Picture that girl that's just randomly getting catcalled or sexually assaulted or is clearly in an uncomfortable position. Think about her as if she was somebody that was in your personal life that you care about. Imagine seeing that person in that situation.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. And oftentimes, like, women will appreciate the fact, more than oftentimes, we appreciate the fact that if you're like, hey, dude, leave her alone. She told you no. Back off.
Yeah.
And as women, we need to stop being like, this is okay. And start like, I always growing up had this fear of making a man feel uncomfortable just because I was uncomfortable. No, if you're making me uncomfortable, I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah.
There's no more silencing here. If I embarrass you, then maybe you should have said that to me in the first place, because I'm a very reasonable person. I'm not just gonna like call somebody out or make a scene just to do that. But if you're making me uncomfortable, then yeah, I'm no longer just going to sit here and say, oh, no, it's fine. You can totally, like grab my side as you pass me. That's completely acceptable. No, don't touch me. You can say, excuse me. I'll hear you. I'll move.
Yeah, you don't have to move me.
Right, exactly. You need to cop a feel that way. Like, it's just, yeah. Ugh. All of it just very like enrages me.
Oh my God, it gets me so angry. And seeing it happen, hearing it happen, it just,
no.
Come on, guys, it's 2021.
Constantly living in fear.
Start respecting people.
There's no need. It's ridiculous.
Yes. So my advice to men: stop doing that, and if you see it, intervene.
Yeah.
Get in the middle of it. Don't be afraid. I think that more men need to be a lot more brave in situations like that, to see things like that, or just anybody. If you see something like that going on, intervene. Call people over. Get involved. Stop that person from doing that, because that's a situation that could escalate very quickly.
Especially if you're like with your buddy and your buddy's doing it.
Yeah.
If you
stand up and tell your friend it's not okay.
Right.
Yeah.
We can do better. Like, we just genuinely, I know, as a society, for so many of these issues and things that we talk about on our show, like, we can just do better, and we need to just start doing better instead of saying, oh, we will. No,
we want to see action. Let's start doing better. Let's start educating people.
Yeah.
Just have have decorum. Act in a nice manner. Don't do something like that. Don't just like grab out. Nobody reacts well to that. I think that it's just a complete disconnect from reality when men act like that. They're just like, oh, this will work.
Telling you, dude, it will not.
I'm sure all to this. No, that never works. That never works the way that you think it's going to work. So stop doing that. Stop being a weak person. Just leave people alone. That's the gist of what we're trying to say here. Leave people alone.
Let's say you are trying to approach a woman on a street. You think she's attractive. Here's the way that I think it should be done. If you think that a woman is attractive, sure, go over to her, make sure you're not like alarmed, to say, hey, I thought you were really pretty. My name is blah, blah, blah. Here's my number. If you are single and you would like to and you would like to talk to me. First off, do not go up to a woman and say, what's your number? Don't put her on the spot.
Yeah.
Make it her choice. Like, if here's my number, if you would like to talk to me, or if you would like to, that's your choice. I guarantee you guys have a much better, works a lot better that way than calling them hot, calling them out by their figure, like being disrespectful, calling them a bitch. First off, no, never going to work. Just if you really want to shoot your shot, there's nothing wrong with shooting your shot. Just do it in a respectful manner that doesn't make her uncomfortable and gives her the complete control over that situation.
The most attractive thing that anyone can do is just be nice, be respectful and be nice. I promise you it will work. Do not disrespect people, and literally just don't disrespect people. You will have a much better chance
at your answer for what it is and move on, dude. There's plenty of other women in the world. There's like millions and billions and billions of people.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that one girl isn't into you doesn't mean another one won't be.
But if you keep catcalling people and you keep making people uncomfortable, you won't have any shot.
No one's going to be interested in you then.
Promise you will not have good chances.
You POS.
Right. Absolutely. And going on the topic of what was wrong with our culture in America right now.
Right.
Just in the last week, we had 2 shootings like pretty close to each other in different parts of the country. So it's I think that this goes back to the topic of the disconnect that we have, to where we're becoming, and it also goes back to the first story I referred to about the girl from Bucks County, where we're talking about, there's a disconnect when we read these stories like, oh, okay, it's not directly involving me. So it's just, this is commonplace, this is normal. And it's, unfortunately, mass shootings have become a normal thing in America, which, how crazy is that sentence I just said?
How
Mass
is it
shootings have
normal?
become a normal thing
I
in
know.
America.
And it's
Just, oh no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, hearing about these 2 shootings, it's like this past year, everything happening with COVID, the world's kind of going on lockdown. Like, even though we were dealing with a different type of traumatic experience dealing with a pandemic, it was kind of a break from our normal traumatic experiences of hearing about, oh, there was a mass shooting or there was a bombing or a stabbing like every other day. And now just the fact that we're like back in that, like, this whole cycle of, we have all of these shootings and these terrible events happening. It's terrible, it's sickening, the fact that, we're back to normal.
Right.
I hate that. Like, why is this normal? This is
Right.
not okay. This is not normal.
This just really goes to show too that we need to emphasize the importance of mental health, because a lot of the people, like these shooters, a lot of it is due to their mental health and not getting the care that they properly need. And then just going around like gun violation and gun restrictions and gun laws and violations. Like, there needs to be some type of mental health evaluation before you're able to purchase a gun, in my opinion. And I also think that there needs to be some type of reoccurring evaluation. It shouldn't just be like, oh, cool, you're allowed to buy a gun when you're 18, but you don't get checked up on for years. I mean, just put like the guns. I mean, thinking about like the Boulder situation at the grocery store, that was so awful to see. All those innocent lives just taken, those poor families, just all, can you just imagine just expecting to just go to the grocery store, something every American does, just like a typical part of our routine, going grocery shopping. And then, like your husband or your wife just going out grocery shopping and then them not coming back because they were killed. And just all of this is just so sickening. Those lives were taken that didn't need, like, such innocent lives, innocent people. And people don't understand the importance of putting guns behind people's hands that are mentally stable and are going to be responsible about that. It just blows my mind. It's just sad.
Yeah, it's one of those issues that our country faces where there's no clear-cut answer. I think people think like, okay, let everybody have guns or let nobody have guns. And it's like, well, no, that's, that people are individuals. Some people shouldn't have them because they have mental health issues. And there's some people like, I mean, me personally, I've been around people my entire life who, they're members of the NRA, they have concealed carry, and they would never commit something like this. They're very responsible people who keep it on them for self-defense, usually from people like these perpetrators. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, there are people that, I think should have them, that are, safe people to have them. But it's like, yeah, I think that a background check is not totally uncalled for. And I mean, there's so many things in this country that you need a background check for, but not, to buy a gun. So
it doesn't have to be so cut and dry, so black and white.
Yeah. It's a very rough issue, because these 2 people who got this, who got the weapons and perpetrated these, I mean, they got it pretty easily.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not saying that I don't think that people should own guns, but I am saying that there should be some type of more in-depth regulation than there is. You should have to go through some type of like training or boot camp or like I don't know, you need like to pass a course or a test or something.
Yeah.
And to bring up, like, people are carrying it. I mean, this is my own opinion, but people are bringing it to, places for self-defense. There's, again, this is my opinion, and I know some people don't agree with this, some people do, but like, there's places you do not need that type of self-defense. And I'm sorry, when you go to a grocery store, you do not need to be carrying a gun.
Or you don't think you do. You don't think that you do.
I guess, yeah, you don't think. See that?
See what I'm saying? It's just like anywhere. I mean, like,
it's not a straight line answer,
it's not.
but there needs to be something that is done, because we cannot be continuing what is happening. But it's right. You shouldn't have to go and carry a gun going to a grocery store. You shouldn't.
You shouldn't have to be scared about going to a grocery store.
But then why do people do it? Why do you feel the need to? Because things like this happen. You need to protect yourself, but that's
this is, goes back to it not being black and white, where the problem that I think a lot of people don't talk about when they're talking about gun reform, and there are people in this country that just think nobody should own it. Criminals are not listening to the law.
Right.
They're not going to listen. If let's say hypothetically, all the guns are taken away from everybody. The criminals aren't going to listen to that. They're going to get it one way or another. So now, again, just in my eyes, you've taken it away from the people that could have stopped the shooter. And it's just, it's another example of it not being so cut and dry. Just, criminals don't listen to laws.
If they want to do something, they will.
They will do it anyway. Yep.
So it's
whether legally or illegally, they'll find a way.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this brings it's such an importance of mental health, and the people who need help and need the resources, we need to normalize, and we need to grant more access to mental health, because I think that's what stems most of the situations.
I agree.
You look at most of these, the people, the shooters, or most of them have had some sort of like
underlying
mental health issues that maybe it could have been stopped if they had the proper resources, if they had the proper care.
Yeah.
I also think another huge thing is we need to start educating people on the signs of somebody who could be an active shooter, whether that's like the signs in school, which is a huge one, or like a friend or family member or someone that you might not even expect, because half the time people weren't, they're so busy and paying attention to their own lives. And I get it, we get swept up into what we do, but if we're educated on at least like a few of the signs, somebody else might be catching on too, and we can stop it before any of this stuff happens. Like we can and I agree, like mental health there needs to be more access to therapy. There needs to be more access to being institutionalized. It needs to be more accepted. And like we can stop these things from happening.
There needs to be less stigma around it too.
Right.
We can.
I know so many people who have suffered from depression, and the advice they got was just keep it to yourself.
Right. Oh, you just need to get some fresh air.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal.
You'll be okay.
Yeah.
Which makes it's not that worse.
Yeah.
And then I mean, with something like that, with anything, there's levels of severity with stuff like that. Some people, they maybe they're just sad, they just need to get outside a little bit. But there are people who have actual depression, and they need to have medication or access to medication, or just somebody to talk to. It's another very long, convoluted thing where it's there's so many various levels to it that and I'm not a medical professional, I'm not going to claim to be one, but there needs to be less stigma around something like this, where you can talk about it with professionals or with loved ones or something like that. Just, I think it's become very commonplace to just like, no, I'm going to just keep it to myself and just, it'll go away eventually. It's like, that doesn't always work. Most cases, it does not work.
Under, normal health insurances.
Yeah.
Why is it free for me to, why can I make sure that my physical body is okay, but why is my mental health not a priority as well? Why does it cost $200 for one therapy session?
And another thing that I think is important to bring up, colleges and universities, I mean, not to throw Temple University under the radar, but it's been, people have come out and said that our mental health and our, student services is not good. You're allowed like 3 sessions, but if you have a bigger, I guess, a bigger issue than they can treat, they will send you somewhere else. But not every person can afford that or everything. So why are these institutions, why are these universities who have the money, who have the resources, why are they not helping students who, if the student is strong enough to go ask for help in the first place, you're just going to turn them away?
Yeah, school's not the only school that has this issue too.
Yeah, it's not by far not the only school.
You're so right. Like one of the first step is admitting that you need help and making that like step out. Like that's so hard. And I commend everyone that has done that. And then you're just going to say, oh, your problems aren't really that bad. Like, the whole system just is so.
It's so, and it needs to be changed because
it needs a major improvement. Yeah.
When that is improved, when that is changed, I think you'll see, like you'll see change. Exactly. This is a whole domino effect. I would want to think you'd see less, of these shootings or these traumatic and tragic events that are happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the whole theme of this show today can be summed up. Just things need to change systematically from a societal level. I think that, there needs to just be a different way of how people are looking at these situations that are plaguing our country. And I think that, once those are implemented in one way or another, whether it's, teaching people on an individual level to not talk to women a certain way, to treat women with respect, to look at the warning signs of somebody who might be on the verge of doing something bad or who needs help in their own individual lives. I think once we start to tackle all of that, then our society will actually start to see some major changes, and it will trickle down into other problems that our society is facing as well.
And I think it really does start with us. We need to hold ourselves accountable. We need to make sure that we're holding the people in our lives accountable, opening our eyes, taking ourselves, we might not get educated on this stuff, and it's up to us to educate ourselves. And I think that's like a big message that I want to get out of this show today, because a lot of what we talked about is very heavy, and it's been issues that have been going on for a really long time. And it's so sad. And it's so upsetting that everyone, that people are just saying, oh, it is what it is. It doesn't have to be that way. We can actively make things better, but it starts with us.
Yes, absolutely. I think that we can all make a major change just from little things that we do, whether it's intervening if you see a guy acting a certain way towards a woman and you see that it's not the right way that he should be acting, or talking to a friend. Or
even as a woman, go over and be like, hey girl, let's get out of here.
Yeah,
exactly. Intervene in everything that we have talked about today.
Make sure you are safe, but if you can safely get you and that person out of that situation, do it, because guarantee you they're going to be thanking you for it.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's where we're going to end our show today. Some very heavy subjects, but I think that they needed to be talked about. And, with every show, we hope that our audience can get some useful information out of what we've talked about today. I think that we did a good deep dive on all these different subjects.
Yeah. And I definitely want to say that, if anybody needs anything, as we've mentioned, we're not professionals, but I'm always here to hear somebody out. So if you're feeling a certain way, we may not know each other. We might. I'm open. I'm here.
I'm here too.
I am as well.
You guys can always reach out to any of us on Instagram. Reach out to our podcast's Instagram. We're on it. We'll answer.
By students for students isn't just our tagline.
Exactly. Yeah. We're here for you guys.
Yeah, we're for students. All right. And I think that is where we're going to end our show today. Thank you all so much for listening. We all hope that you got some useful information out of this and that it will positively impact you in one way or another. I'm your host, John Fay, with hosts Allison Silbowski and Jordan Ezel. We will catch you on the next episode. See you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.